Welcome to the session. So in the previous session we had discussed about the system calls, especially with respect to low level input output operation. So in this session let us discuss about the system calls with respect to a process control. So basically we need the system calls in terms of process calls just to create and end the program, as well as to send and receive the software interrupts, and also to allocate the memory. As a part of that, we have four different types of system calls with respect to a process control. One is the fork, second one is the wait, third one is EXCL and EXECV, and the fourth system call with respect to process control is exit. So we will discuss one by one. The first one is the fork. So as we know that fork is a system call which is used to create a new process. Whenever the fork system call is being executed, another process is being created. So this is the syntax that what we use to create a new process. So the original process is called as a parent process, and the process which is being created by the parent process is called as a child process, where this child process is almost an exact copy of a parent process. That means all the properties of your parent process will be inherited to your child process. So what happens is, once we initiate a fork operation, fork is going to create a new process, and this is going to return a new process ID, where this new process ID is stored in a variable called as PID. So this is an integer variable which will store the process ID of a newly created ID. So you can see this here. If I would like to know what is the process ID of a process, then I can make use of a system called as a get ID. So we have two different system calls. One is the fork, the other one is the get ID. Fork is a system call that creates a new process and returns the process ID of that newly created process and stores in an integer variable called as PID. And if I would like to know what is the process ID of a process, then I'm going to make use of get ID. So as a part of that, once we execute your fork system call, what fork is going to return? The fork is going to return the process ID of the child process, and it also returns 0. 0 is being returned to the child process. So as a new process is being created, which we consider it as a child process of a parent, then it returns a 0 to the child process, and then it also returns any non-zero value, even a -1, to a parent process. That means on successful execution of your fork, when a process is being created using a fork, it returns two basic values. One is 0 to the child process, the other one is non-zero value to the parent process. In case if fork fails to create a new process, then it is going to return 1, which indicates an error. 1 indicates an error, and this error indicates that fork has been failed to create a new process. So we have to look into a small difference between a parent process and the child process whenever it is being created using a fork function. So as we know that your a child process creates or inherits all its properties from the parent process. So it copies all the data, especially child process copies all the data including the variables from its parent process, and all these data and the variables are being maintained separately, and a separate program counter is also created for a child process. So this is possible only when you have created a child, when a process is being created using a fork. So we'll move on to the next system call, that is wait. So wait is a system call that causes the process to wait for a signal. So when we use this is, as we know that a parent process has to wait till child process executes and gets terminated. Till then the parent process has to wait. So to initiate that, the parent process has to wait till the child process completes its operation or terminates it, then a system call is being invoked called as wait at status. So this is the system call which helps the parent process to held up its operation till, or to wait its operation till child process completes its process operation. So it basically returns, wait basically returns 0 if a child process is being terminated successfully. So it is an indication where where the parent has to wait till the child process has to complete. Once the child process has completed its operation, then wait returns with the status value will be written with 0, indicating that the child has been terminated successfully. Then a parent process can continue its process. If it returns a non-zero value, it indicates that there is an error, maybe like without informing the parent process, the child process might have been terminated itself, or there might be a scenario though the child process exists, the parent process without waiting it can execute its own process. So in that case, wait basically returns with the status value as any non-zero value, indicating that there are different errors in wait state. So the next system call with respect to your process control is EXCL and EXCV. So EXCL represents execute and leave. So why we use these two different system calls is it transforms an executable binary file into a process. So if I would like to transform any executable binary file into a process, then I'm going to make use of your EXECL and EXECV. So as I told you that EXECL is nothing but execute and leave. It's a system call that loads a new executable process into a memory and associates with the current process. So that's the function of your EXECL. So what is the function of your where your EXECL has two different variants here. One is EXECLP, the other one is EXECVP. So why we use EXECLP? EXECLP is used to execute another program without returning back or stopping it. In terms, whenever this EXECLP is being initiated or the system call is being invoked, it halts the currently running program and executes the new program, and then it exits. So though a program is being executed, is under execution, EXECLP is invoked, so it stops the current program which is being executed and starts executing the new program. So if I would like to execute that, then I'm going to make use of EXECLP. And why we use this EXECVP? So EXECVP is a variant which is being used when the number of arguments are not known. Basically what happens is, with respect to EXECL, so when you know, until unless you know which program that you are running, that program and the file name is being given as an argument. But if you do not know how many number of arguments are there, then I'm going to make use of EXECVP, where you provide a file name or your program name along with the argument path. That means where your file name does exist. So the only simple way is to stop. Why we use these two is to stop currently running program and to start executing the newly created program. Then we invoke a system call called as EXECL and EXECV. So we'll move on to the next system call, that is exit. So exit is a system call which is a part of process control, where it ends a process and returns a value to its parent. So once your process is being exit, or your child process has been successfully executed and completed its execution, then what it does is it is going to return a status. If it returns the 0 as the status, it represents that your process is being ended successfully, and it returns the process ID of that child process to your parent process. In case if your status value is written as a non-zero value, then it's a failure to end the process. That means the process is not been yet ended, it is still under execution, or it might be under wait state. So if I would like to end a process and return a value of its parent process, then I'm going to make use of an exit. And if the status is being written as 0, that means your process is been ended successfully. If process is not been ended successfully, then it returns a non-zero, indicating it is a failure. So this is about your system calls for process control. So we'll move on to the next system call with respect to IPC. So IPC stands for inter-process communication. So this usually use inter-process communication is where two different process wants to communicate with each other. So we have two different system calls for that. One is pipes, the other one is DUP, where DUP stands for duplicate. So as we have already discussed about this pipeline, so pipes are nothing but, so it's a connection between two different processes where the output of one process is given as an input to another process. So this is what we call it as a pipes. So pipe is a one system call which expects an output from one process and gives the same output as an input to another process using a system call called as a pipes. So this is going to establish an inter-process communication between two different processes. So if I want to just establish a communication between two different processes, take the output of one process and give the input to another process, then I'm going to make use of a system call called as a pipes. So the last system call with respect to your IPC or inter-process communication is DUP. DUP stands for duplicate, which is used to, if I would like to duplicate the file descriptor itself. As we know that file descriptor always stores the complete information of the file. So if I would like to duplicate the file descriptor itself, then I'm going to make use of DUP followed by FD, where this returns a new file descriptor. But though a new file descriptor is created, it refers to the same opened file. Say for example, I have a file name called as ABC, and the information of ABC is stored in FD. And now using DUP, I'm going to create one more process called as FD1. So an FD1 is being created, which is going to hold the same information that what it is present in the another file. So now DUP is going to create a duplicate of an existing file descriptor with a new file descriptor, but it refers to the same file. So it's something like this. Say I have two different files here, and let me assume that this is your file descriptor 1, which holds an information about a file ABC. Now using DUP, a new file descriptor is created, and let me call that file descriptor is 2. Though it is a new file descriptor, but this file descriptor still points towards the same file, that is ABC. So that is why we use DUP. So this is we have discussed about three different types of system call. One is system call for low level input output operation, then system call for process control, and where we have four different types there. One is the fork, wait, exec and exit, and the last Unix system call that what we have discussed is your IPC, system call for inter-process communication, where we have two different types. One is the pipes and DUP. So the last concept of this chapter is signals and interrupts. So what is a signal? So basically a signal is a message which is being sent to a program which is under execution. So that is what we call it as a signal. So whenever a program is under execution, there might be a problem where the program might get terminated. That might be because of some reasons. So this is what we call it as an interrupt. So what are those reasons where your program is being interrupted during the execution? So this usually the errors might occur by pressing a delete key, or you might hang up, or your program may go to an hang up situation, or your program might be terminated by your kill command. So though your program is under execution, so you might press a delete key, or you might quit the program itself, or your program might get hanged up, or you may initiate your program to kill during the execution. So these are the different types of interrupts where you can see. And the other interrupts where you can find the interrupt during the execution is during the inter-process communication, which is happening between two different processes, where one particular process sends a signal to another particular process. So there might be a problem in sending these signals from one process to another process. So during this time, there is a possibility where an interrupt can occur. So I would like to know what are those interrupts signals and how it can be initiated to know whether an interrupt is being occurred or not. So we have a different signals here. First one is SIG HUP. SIG stands for signal, HUP stands for hang up. So this whatever the one represents, it's a signal number. So this is not the serial numbers of this particular signals. All this what you are seeing is a signals. So SIG HUP 1 represents, it's a signal hang up. If you would like to hang up your process, then we have to initiate, or system itself is going to initiate with the signal called as SIG HUP, or it can also be initiated with the signal number. The signal number which is associated with signal hub is 1. Now if I would like to interrupt, if I would like to initiate that your process is being interrupted, or to tell the process is going to get exit, then I'm going to make use of SIG INT. INT stands for interrupt, and its signal number is 2. Then if I would like to forcefully quit the process, I want to quit the process and I would like to initiate a signal, then I'm going to make use of SIG quit, whose signal number is 3. Then SIG ILL. ILL stands for illegal instruction. Say this particular interrupt or signal is being sent probably when unexpectedly a delete button is being pressed. When I hit on a delete button, so an interrupt is being generated by sending a signal that it's an illegal operator that what you have pressed. So that is why we use this a signal is being sent called as SIG ILL. ILL stands for illegal. So if I would like to kill the process for sure without any changes or without any ignoring, then system call is going to initiate with a signal called as SIG kill, whose signal number is 9. We'll take some examples for this. Then if I would like to generate an alarm clock, say for example a process is being scheduled at particular duration and I want to initiate an alarm when my process is going to start. So then we have a signal to initiate that, is the signal is SIG ALRM, whose signal number is 14. Now if a software gets terminated and I would like to get a signal out of it to request to terminate it gracefully, then I am going to make use of SIG TERM. So there is a software is being running and in between there is an interrupt where indicating that your software is not working properly, but I would like to close your software very gracefully without any issues. Then we can make use of a signal. A signal is being generated. That signal is SIG TERM, which is whose signal number is 15. Now if I would like to stop the process itself, then I'm going to make use of SIG stop, whose signal number is 24, or it can also be achieved by just pressing Ctrl+Z. So when it comes to any of your programs during execution of your programs will respond to some of the signals during these three scenarios. So whenever I run a program, say if it is a C program responds to a signal in maybe during these different ways. One is, program starts responding when the signal is being ignored. So what happens in this scenario is where the program will never be informed of signal, no matter how many number of times the error or your signal has been occurred. So the scenario is very simple. So it just whatever the signal or an interrupt which is being occurred during your program execution, all those interrupts or the signals are totally being ignored. That means you are going to ignore the signal so that your program will be executed successfully without any problem. Then the second way where your program is going to respond is when you terminate the process. So when a signal can be set into a default state, basically the default state to terminate your process is SIG kill. SIG kill is your default signal status. So whenever you want to close your program, so it terminates the process just by invoking a signal called as SIG kill. And the last one where your program responds to a signal when the signal is being caught. So what type of a signal is being occurred, that will be caught by your program. Based on the type of the signal which is being generated, the program responds according to the sent signal. So these are the three different ways where your program start responding for the signals. So the last part of this signals and interrupts are your kill and alarm. So kill is where if I would like to terminate my process with the help of a process ID, then I'm going to make use of a command called as kill. So basically we terminate our process with the help of process name. Usually as a user I always identify the process by its name, but your Unix system generally identifies any process not by its name but by its process ID. Now if I would like to terminate or close any of my process, then I'm going to make use of a process ID to perform some set of operation so that my process is being terminated successfully. So we have set of examples here. So the first one is kill 147, where this 147 is a process ID. So this is going to initiate a default signal called as SIGINT. That means to interrupt your process, and the process with process ID called as 147 will be interrupted. So once I say kill 147, by default a signal called as SIGINT stands for signal interrupt. So this signal interrupt will be invoked automatically and interrupts the process with the process ID called as 147. Now this is where if I would like to kill or terminate the process itself. So what is my process ID? 147. Now what I say is I would like to generate a signal, that means to kill the process called as 147 by invoking a signal or by generating a signal called as SIG kill. That means a process will be killed by generating a command or a signal called as SIG kill to initiate, to terminate your process whose process ID is 147. The same thing can also be achieved with the help of its signal number. The signal number for sig kill is 9. 9 is a signal number, so we make use of an -9 here. So -9 represents that to initiate a signal called as SIG kill, that means to terminate or kill your process without making any changes, whose process ID is 147. So this is the last example where -9 where -1 represents that. So this is not a process ID, rather this is an instruction given by the super user to send a signal called as SIG kill to all the other process. So -1 represents, it's not your signal number. Here -9 is a signal number which indicates SIG kill, where followed by -1, this is not a signal number, rather this indicates it's a super user who has initiated a signal called as -9, with that is to terminate your process without making any changes. So this is about your a kill system call. So the last one is alarm. So as I told you, whenever a process has to be scheduled for its execution, I would like to set an alarm and turn it on or turn it off by sending a signal. So if I would like to make use of SIG ALRM, so that is going to execute in this is the prototype. So this is the prototype of your alarm command. So where we are going to make use of SIG ALRM. So this is going to initiate this particular prototype, and when the alarm goes off, the signal called as SIG ALRM is sent to the process, so that the process indicates that the process is now ready for execution. In case if the child process is already been executed, then it automatically issues a wait signal. I would like to wait. So there, because the parent process cannot be executed till the child parent completes its operation. So it's a very simple where an alarm goes off by sending a signal called as SIG ALRM, which is being sent to a calling process. So if it is a parent process, it has to wait until unless a child process completes its operation, or if it is not, if the child process has already been terminated, then it starts executing its process. So it generally returns an unsigned integer after that, means whether it has been successfully executed or it has not been successfully executed, and that whatever the value that has been written is always represented in terms of a seconds. That means what is the duration where this alarm is being sent, and when the process is being executed, and when it was sent to the calling process. So the entire information when the alarm goes off, when the signal is being sent to calling process, is always calculated using this seconds, and this is a prototype where this seconds returns the duration of when the alarm goes off and when your calling process when your SIG alarm is sent to your calling process. So this is about your alarm, and that's the end of your special tools and utilities, where I had just left with few concepts. So in the upcoming session we shall just discuss about few programs and few concepts of your control structures. Thank you.